Hello, it's Mark here from Yokel Bear Reads with a belated Happy New Year, even though it's the middle of January now. And this is going to be a kind of bit of a TBR, a bit of a book haul, but also a bit of an explanation. Before Christmas, I was doing a series, the 12 Ghost Stories of Christmas, where I was recommending ghost stories. Well, a few things conspired against me, so we ended up with, I think, the 5 ghost stories of Christmas. I got a bit ill over Christmas, and then Christmas itself arrived, and friends and family stuff and what have you, and then having to go back to work after the new year. It just all got away with me a bit. I probably should have recorded them a lot earlier than I did. So I kind of ran out of time. So here's the plan, because I'm not just abandoning this. The plan is that I am going to be doing some ghost stories review. I'm going to do one a month. So I'm going to do one by the end of January. So by the time we get to Christmas, we'll almost be at 12 extra anyway. And then I'll be doing something a bit special when the ghost story season arrives for Christmas next year. So it's been a bit of an odd Christmas and New Year because I didn't read as much as I normally could. I think it was because I was feeling a little bit ill. Got a mild touch of depression as well, which is something I've had kind of all my life, but which is unusual because normally with Christmas I'm well into Christmas. So it's a bit of an odd one, but I did manage to get some reading done. In the next couple of weeks I'll be doing some reviews of what I've read. But today I'm going to do my kind of book haul, January, February, TBR. My to be reads are a bit of a loose affair because I'll show you them now, but then I might choose other books to read. I've got a very kind of fickle, loose way of picking what book comes next. I don't do it in a kind of list order or, my book pile changes, the priorities change by the day. And it's whatever grabs my attention once I've finished the book that I'm reading. So these are what I plan to read. Whether they'll be actually what I read, well, that's the surprise for you, isn't it? So we're going to start off with, this is a book in a series that I'm planning to read, because I think this is the kind of book that you should be reading this time of year, when it's cold, the temperature's dropping. You need some Nordic noir. And I'm going to read Snowblind by Ragnar Jónasson. And this is a series of crime novels set in Iceland. I think, like I said, this time of year I really want to read something that's got snow and ice and whistling wind and stuff like that, but not necessarily ghost stories. Because I feel that's kind of a Christmassy thing for me. So this is more going into crime. And this is the story of a small town where a murder happens. But there's a new detective in town, a new policeman called Ari Tor Arason, who is going to be finding out who the murderer is, basically. But this got really good reviews about kind of how bleak and how it kind of really gives a sense of place about, you really feel as though you're in Iceland. So that's the first on my TBR. The second one comes from talking to my brother, who is a big sci-fi fan. That's pretty much what he reads. He's Agatha Christie or sci-fi. In fact, if Agatha Christie had ever written a sci-fi book, that probably would have been his ideal book. But talking to him, I decided that, I don't read as much sci-fi as I could. And I do like a bit of sci-fi, but I always kind of choose fantasy, horror. Yeah, if I'm going for genre stuff, it's science fiction doesn't always come out on top. So I am going to be reading Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey, which most of you will know is what the TV series, the Netflix series, is it Netflix or is it, it's gone somewhere else now, isn't it? Or has it come to Netflix? Oh, I don't know, I get confused. But it's basically The Expanse. This is what the books that's created the TV series The Expanse. And I really liked it, and I want to read the books, see how they differ, but also as well, it promises me as close as you'll get to a Hollywood blockbuster in book form. And I think sometimes you want that, don't you? You want something with a lot of plot and a lot of action and a lot of kind of, you know, like you're watching some big series but in a book. And also because there's quite a lot of these, and you know, obviously more books than there has been TV series, as opposed to Game of Thrones, where it's the other way around, where there's now more TV series than books. I'm quite interested, if I get on with this, to really kind of read the whole series and be ahead of what potentially could be in the TV series. So yeah, quite looking forward to this. A bit of a space opera sci-fi. Now, we know that it wouldn't be a Yoka Bear Reads without a ghost story. And this is actually on my TBR, but I actually read it before Christmas. But I'm going to read it again because I really enjoyed it that much. And this is, I don't know whether it's, I don't know how you pronounce this. Is it SJI or SJI Holliday? It's called The Lingering. Now, I bought this on spec because it basically says on the back that if you like M.R. James and you like ghost stories, you'll like this. And it's it's a very clever ghost story in that it's a psychological thriller as well. And it's about a couple that go to live on a kind of commune. It's a place where everything's shared, a bit of a commune place, but, you know, for people that are quite well off and stuff like that. But it's in a place where you can guess there's a history there. And not everyone is as they seem. But what I loved about this, and which is why it's on my TBR red pile again, is that lingering sense of kind of something coming. And I really enjoyed that. And sometimes I get a book that I think, Joe, I'm going to put it down for a couple of weeks, I'm going to read it again. This is one of them. So The Lingering. Now my next book is a bit of an odd one, but it kind of makes sense, especially if you live in Britain at the moment. we are, for those of you in the rest of the world, you might have noticed that we've got this thing going on called Brexit. Yeah, it's kind of a big thing over here at the moment. Anyway, you know, like a lot of people, I'm a bit worried about, you know, what the hell's going to happen if we don't get a deal and, you know, and all that kind of stuff, and if we crash out of the European Union. And I did see that they've actually now appointed a Minister for Emergency Food Supplies, which isn't worrying me at all. But I got hold of a copy of this, and again, it was something that somebody recommended to me, but then I saw it in the bookshop, which is by William Sitwell, who was a food writer, who some people might know got into trouble online recently because, let's just say, he's got a very dim view of vegans. It's not a good thing to do online, have a bad view of vegans. I don't. I think vegans are great, you know. I'm not myself, but, you know, totally respect it. Wish I could. But, you know, cheese, I'm not sure I could live without the cheese. Anyway, but this is called Eggs and Anarchy, which is the remarkable story of the man tasked with the impossible, to feed a nation at war. And basically, this is the story of Lord Woolton, who was the guy that was given the job during the Second World War in Britain of feeding the country, of making sure that there were still food supplies. And this, a friend of mine told me, it's an absolutely fascinating story about how he went about this, about kind of encouraging people to grow their own fruit and vegetables, how they decided what should be rationed, but also as well how he was making deals all around the world on the black market just to make sure that Britain got food, because obviously we were, by the time the Nazis had got to France and everything, we were quite cut off from the world, and the Atlantic convoys were going backwards and forwards, but the Nazis were sinking ships. But this is kind of a story about a very odd guy. He was a bit of an outsider in government, but how he put this plan together and how it was genius, and how it kind of possibly, you know, was one of the reasons why I'm not living in a Nazi country right now. Basically, I just love a bit of history, and I love histories that are a little bit odd, about something that hasn't really been told before. I mean, let's face it, we all love a bit of kind of, you know, Hilary Mantel and the Tudor stuff. But I like the odd stories in history, the things that you think, God, I never knew that. So quite looking forward to this. I do love a good, odd history book. The next one, again, I picked up on spec. I didn't even know this was out. This was Alex Reeve, The House on Half Moon Street. Historical crime fiction, which I do like now and again, especially if it's kind of Victorian, that era. Bit of, you know, bit of a top hat, bit of a pea super fog. Stuff like that. I do love that stuff. But the thing that really attracted me to this book is the fact that the main character is a trans character. It's a transgender character who is living as a man but is actually a woman. And I just love this idea of this a different kind of lead character, and I think it's really good for trans representation as well, which I think that's a great thing. But also as well, it got really good reviews about just how good the plot is and how good the writing is. So I could not resist that. So it's on the pile. 2 more to go. Murmur by Will Eaves. This is a novel that I've read some Will Eaves stuff before. He's a really good but kind of experimental author. His books aren't straightforward. The Absent Therapist was a great book, which was basically a story told by therapy sessions, but without the therapist, which is a bit hard to explain, but if you read it, you'll know what I said, what it means. He's also got another book, which I've never read, but I love the title, which is The Inevitable Gift Shop, which for somebody who was dragged around quite a lot of National Trust places when you were a kid, it's always The Inevitable Gift Shop. But this one particularly, I really wanted to read, and I was really glad that it was Waterstones had it in actually. Murmur by Will Eaves. It's a novelisation of the life of Alan Turing, the scientist who cracked the Enigma code, who was a huge, huge hero of mine, who was then prosecuted and chemically castrated for basically having a relationship with a man. So he's a bit of an LGBTQ plus icon, but he is a real icon of mine as well. I'm a bit of a nerd. I'm a gay nerd. Yeah, I do love, Alan. He's someone I've always been really interested in. So I'm really interested to read this because also as well, from the stuff that I've written, it's written in a very experimental way. And I quite like that. I quite like writing that challenges you, that isn't just a straightforward kind of, plot, action, stuff like that. And already I'm about a third of the way through this. There are moments in this where the prose is absolutely sublime. It's just breathtaking. So it's on the pile. And my last one, which was a Christmas present, and I'm so excited to read this book because it's about dinosaurs. The Rise and the Fall of Dinosaurs by Steve Brusatte. I think that's it, Brusatte. And it's the untold story of a lost world. And basically it's just that. It's a story of dinosaurs, and it's also a bit of a kind of personal memoir about how, as a paleontologist, he discovered certain dinosaurs and how they're excavated and how paleontologists do their job, but also kind of bringing up to date some of the latest scientific ideas around dinosaurs. But it also kind of tells it from the beginning, from the Triassic period through the rise of the dinosaurs to basically when the dinosaurs were wiped out by the big comety thing. And as you might be able to see up here, I do love a dinosaur. I mean, look, on my shelf. Arr. But also as well, my favourite dinosaur, Ankylosaurus. My absolute favourite dinosaur. Arr. It's hard to believe I'm in my 50s really, isn't it? Because I still love dinosaurs, and I make no apologies for that. I absolutely loved them when I was a kid. I loved them when I was a teenager. I loved them in my 20s, 30s, 40s. I love them now. So to get a book like this and to be able to delve into this prehistoric world again, brilliant. So that is my to be read pile. Like I said, I'll do a ghost stories video by the end of the month. I've got a couple of ghost stories I want to tell you about, and I carry on doing those. And so again, apologies for not keeping that series up, but events and germs overtook me. But I'm back. So there you go. So that's my to be read, and we'll see which ones of them I actually do read. Maybe I'll do my kind of roundup. I'm going to do a roundup at the end of February. Maybe it'll be completely different books. Who knows? Anyway, it's good to be back. Take care of yourselves. Bye.